Great scholar and lexicographer Bhai Kahan Singh Nabha. There have been scholar and annotator who have annotated the human values and mystic principles of Gurbani in Sikh religion. But after Bhai Gurdas Ji, if all Sikh scholars and commentators are listed, then the name of Bhai Kahan Singh Nabha, the compiler of Encyclopedia of Sikh Literature, shines like a moon in the star-studded sky. He was supreme amongst the great personalities of his time 1861 to 1938. Bhai Kahan Singh's ancestral village was Pitho in district Bathinda, and he was Dhilan Jat. Born on August 30, 1861 to Mata Har Kaur and father Narayan Singh, in village Banner, occurred in the state of Patiala. Bhai Kahan Singh's ancestral culture matches with that of Maharaja Ranjit Singh's assistant, Baba Naud Singh. He was married to Bibi Basant Kaur, daughter of Sardar Hardam Singh of village Ramgarh. He had a son, Bhai Bhagwant Singh Hariji, in 1892 From literary point of view, he was a patriotic person. He did not attend any school or college for formal education, but studied several branches of learning on his own. Unpublished compositions count above 24. Indian culture and modernization had same impact on his ideals. His individual efforts surpasses the work of many organizations. He was an eminent scholar, a Gurmat researcher, a learned annotator, a scientific lexicographer, a language expert, a great poet and an excellent editor in Punjabi. Bhai Sahib served the Nabha state from 1886 to 1912 and 1917 to 1923, being on different posts like private secretary, city magistrate, deputy commissioner, foreign minister, judge of high court, member of Judicial Council of Nabha State, etc. He worked as a lawyer in the political agency of Patiala State under Maharaja Bhupinder Singh from 1915 to 1917. Renowned scholar, Mr. Max Arthur Macauliffe, England, Maharaja Ripadman Singh of Nabha State and his wife Maharani Sarojini Devi were prominent followers of Bhai Kahan Singh Nabha. Bhai Sahib started his literary work in a traditional mode under the influence of Brij and Devanagari Hindi languages. His first book is Rajdharm, published in 1884. This was written at a time when he was serving with Maharaja Hira Singh the House of Nabha. Tika Jamani Ashmed 1890 and Natak Babart Deepika 1897 also are some famous books of Bhai Sahib related to Indian culture. Being under the effect of Singh Sabha Lahar, he also preached Gurmat by Sikh principles. He was a man of letter. In his books Gurmat Parbakar, Gurmat Sudhakar Hum Hindu Nahin Guru Chandavakar Guru Shabadalankar and Gurmat Martand is a true picture of Sikh religion and its ideology. Encyclopedia of Sikh Literature Gurushabad Ratnakar Mahan Kosh, the only one of its kind, is Bhai Kahan Singh Nabha's entire life's hard work. It was published by the House of Patiala on instructions of Maharaja Bhupinder Singh in 4 magnificent volumes in 1930. It is not only restricted to Gurbani or Sikh literature, but it is a unique literary composition to know Indian culture and traditions. Undoubtedly Bhai Kahan Singh Nabha was great scholar and lexicographer of India, because there has been no lexicon of any other Indian language which is comparable to Encyclopedia of Sikh Literature Gurushabad Ratnakar Mahan Kosh. According to sworn Singh Baparai, former Vice-Chancellor Punjabi University, Patiala Encyclopedia of Sikh Literature is 12th in the history of encyclopedias in the world. Yet the world is unaware that a Sikh scholar did this path-breaking scholarly work single-handed at that time, when no modern research facilities were available. Besides the references on Sikhism, his encyclopedia gives information of Arabic, Persian, and Sanskrit words as well. According to Dr. Jaspal Singh, former Vice-Chancellor Punjabi University, Patiala, in Mahankosh, comments on technical and theological terms belonging to other religions have been made in a liberal spirit without showing the least sign of sectarianism. This great work of Bhai Kahan Singh present time is a boon not only to the Sikhs but to all Punjabis and the students of comparative religion, theology, literature, and poetry. Bhai Kahan Singh Nabha has put his selfless service and inspiration towards the completion of the world-famous book The Sikh Religion, written by famous scholar Mr. Max Arthur Macauliffe. 1907 to 1908. Mr. Macauliffe has said, in his book Preface to the Sikh Religion, "For literary assistance I must acknowledge my indebtedness to Sardar Kahan Singh of Nabha, one of the greatest scholars and most distinguished authors among the Sikhs. He also contributed in the establishment of Khalsa College, Amritsar. Keeping his political intelligence in view. Maharaja Hira Singh affectionately called him Diplomat Nidhi Ji." Lieutenant Colonel Sir James Robert Dunlop Smith, British official in the Indian Army and first British political agent to the Fulkian states Nabha, Patiala, and Jand, wrote a letter from England in 18 July 1905 to Maharaja Hira Singh Nabha that I have always had a high regard for Sardar Kahan Singh. Lieutenant Colonel Sir James Robert Dunlop Smith has said, "I never met any official in any of the Fulkian states who so faithfully served the interests of both his chief and his state." Kahan Singh successfully represented Nabha state as its lawyer in the Privy Council at London in 1908. He was also co-authored Anand Carriage Act with Tikari Padman Singh of Nabha, which was successfully passed in the Assembly in Oct 1909. In recognition of his services to Nabha state and the Punjabi community, he was honored with the title of Sardar Bahadur by the British government. Due to his all-sphere intelligence and multi-talented dynamic personality, he is known as Bhai Sahib Panthrathan and Sardar Bahadur in Sikh Panth. Among his descendants, his only son Bhai Bhagwant Singh Hariji, his daughter-in-law Bibi Harnam Kaur, and his granddaughter-in-law Dr. Rakpal Kaur have also contributed their invaluable services to Punjabi literature. From this learned family of Nabha state, Major Adarshpal Singh, great-grandson of Bhai Kahan Singh, and his talented daughter Bibi Rupika also have literary interests. Bhai Kahan Singh Nabha's viewpoint was universal, idealistic, and scientific. Presided over the Sikh Educational Conference at Khalsa College Amritsar 4 April 1931 in a lecture, Bhai Kahan Singh says that educated people are honored in this world and illiterate ones are disrespected. There is no power equivalent to knowledge and everyone has to bow before it. As long as India remained a center of learning, outsiders came here as students to acquire knowledge and regarded India as a teacher, but when it diverted from education, it lost its prestige and became dependent on others. Nucleus of his ideology was social welfare and upliftment of Indian masses. Bhai Kahan Singh Nabha passed away on November 23, 1938, but his writings are thought-provoking and have the power of enlightenment for hundreds of years.